Everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Robert Feldman. Robert, good to see you. CEO of Wow's Insurance, insurance professional for 25 years. Your specialty is fire zones and hard to place risks. And so I'm looking forward into, just talking about you, your business, learning more about you. As a business owner, I do want to really kind of focus a little bit today on lessons because I think people learn the most from those. And so in your 25 plus years, what's one of the biggest lessons, two questions on this, you've learned about business, and what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned personally?
Really, actually, it's as terrible as it sounds. It's one and the same. I would
Yeah.
almost argue. It's the fact that perseverance and work ethic it is really what you need to really overcome some impossible things.
Yeah.
Being told that it's impossible to do isn't an answer. In my world with right now, as you can probably imagine, we're building insurance programs for really California and the Western United States for homes and re-engineering how insurance works.
Yeah.
To make it profitable for not only the insurance companies, but to actually have consumers have protection for their most valuable asset.
Yeah.
And so re-engineering, being able to use 25 plus years of being in every major fire, what I've learned over time is that you have to be able to, in essence, be able to overturn the nose. And that's worked in both my professional life and in my personal life.
Yeah.
Is just realize that sometimes you have to be able to wear through. I've heard more no's about our WOWs program for high value homes over the last 2 years. And, one of the greatest things we were able to prove is we had a 4% loss ratio in the Palisades fires.
Wow. Yeah, I know those
With
were
all
horrible.
it's just horrible. So it's just a different change. It's just different change. So I would say.
One, my thoughts go out to everybody who was affected by that. Those were horrible. That was a horrible to watch. I'm sorry for all of them. I want to go back to, a couple of things you're talking about, perseverance,
Yep.
Doing the impossible and finding an answer,
Yep.
but also re-engineering. I remember it, as you said that, it reminds me of a book I read, 25 years ago by Al Ries and Jack Trout, the 21 Immutable Laws of Marketing. And one of the things that they talked about is if you're going to create a new market, you need to either be fast, you need to be fast first and right.
Yeah.
And so when you're re-engineering, you're in an industry, but you're retooling it. You're kind of coming up with another lane. And so talk a little bit about that, because in that, it's like there's almost daily lessons because you're starting from scratch in many ways. Yeah.
Well, what's really interesting is with what we built with us, because we are a wholesaler first. We have our own program as an insurance second, which is a good combination for what we do. But we are well out on, as they say, on the skinny branch, meaning we are out there, cutting the tides or cutting the direction to how to make change. And so I have an incredible crew and two great business partners. And a lot of times the direction comes back to me and they're like, okay, well, how do we handle this situation? What does the industry do? And I kind of smile because more times than not, no one's doing it in the industry.
Right.
So when you're making change and you're creating things that can affect an industry, you're really testing a ton of things and have to realize that a lot of things are going to fail while you're finding the success. So to get to the right place, we had our software system we've been building on. We thought would be an incredible thing that we could help change and streamline the insurance world and streamline things. And you'll laugh when I say this, most insurance brokers don't want to use it. And it makes their life so much faster. But here we thought this was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We're still using a form called an Accord 80 and pulling information off of it. So it's just so different is what I would say.
It's interesting what, I don't know why you're making me think of a lot of books right now, but,
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, starting a new space in your industry. There's a book I read, also 25, 30 years ago, Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. I don't know if you read it, but in it kind of talks about that anytime you're, doing something new, you have your innovators and early adopters. Innovators are very, 2-ish%, and the early adopters are, I think 13-ish%. But getting them to understand the simple elements of things sometimes can be very hard because they have to change the way that they're thinking. One of my favorite podcasts is, besides mine, is called Founders. It's a brilliant podcast, and the guy reads all of these books by founders and then talks about the book in a really interactive, charismatic way. And one of the things he talks about, he talks about when Johnny Carson was, at the height of his career and was thinking about changing networks. He went to like the guru of gurus after, didn't know what to do. And the advice that somebody gave him was, if you switch networks, the habit of your audience may not transfer. Meaning they're so used to going to a specific station on a specific time, they will not know. Changing their habit is too hard. So he stayed with his current network. And so my question to you is, if you had to, today we're focused on lessons, what's the do-over of figuring out the habit of what you thought your buyer would buy?
Well, and see, we work with brokers. We work from consumers to brokers. Depends on the situation. Primarily, we work with brokers. And we also work with a ton of the realtors. I'm a speaker for the California Association of Realtors. It's a great medium to be able to get information out for the insurance world, based on insurance and fire. What I have learned actually is really what you just said, is that there's a certain percentage of people that will fight tooth and nail and hold on forever with what they do and how they do it. And so being adaptable to be able to work with those individuals, to be able to work with, and be able to help make change. I use the comment and I use the cliche, which is, I think it's one of the ones the greatest thing to say, is Einstein's theory of insanity.
Yeah.
The industry has done the exact same things over and over and over again and expects a different result. Well, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. And so what you have to realize, and I say this to everybody, why we're affecting change. A great example, our WILES program, and we actually you talk about early adapters. We even have one of the insurance companies we wholesale through now that's adopting one of our key principles. We make our policies fully transferable from sellers to buyers. Yeah. Think about that for a second. If you have a situation, it's common sense. Yeah. It's a common sense approach to things. And so by making these changes, there's some people that'll adapt to it. But I have one other company, which is one of the largest reinsurance companies in the world, is one of their companies that we explain these to. I work with senior leadership, and it's like I'm telling them I'm insulting their family members almost. Yeah. It's like, it's to talk about that very subject of making it transferable is like and I've asked them, well, why wouldn't you do it? And they go, because this is the way we've always done it. Yeah. And I go, and in my mind right away, Einstein's theory of insanity pops up. Yeah. And I kind of smile and go, okay. I kind of just, you affect change where you can affect change. Right. That's what I would say.
Common sense isn't so common, Robert.
It's a very true statement.
There's one of my top 5 favorite books is a book called Smart Brevity. I don't know if you've read it, but if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. And the whole philosophy of the book is less is more, and how we tighten our messaging. I want to kind of go back to something that you said when it came to your personal and your professional lesson, perseverance. Mm-hmm. I think today, and I'm making a broad statement right now, but perseverance today in the generations that are getting out of college seems a little bit different than the perseverance that we had when we came out of college. Yep. And I was raised, you're first in, you're last to leave. I could name 50 things my dad specifically just ingrained in me. that I ingrain in my kids too, but it's a different world today. So what does, like, paint a picture of perseverance today of what you want to see, new people in your industry, new, or people that you're associating with. What does it look like to build a business, build a career, build, fill in the blank?
Got it. So the perseverance, obviously, in the insurance industry is obviously working with in challenging markets. It's easy when it's an easy market, but when it's challenging markets, is being able to work through those challenges. We keep bringing insurance carriers in. You've probably seen in the news, carriers are continuing to leave California or start, or non-renewing in California. It's a major difference, actually, when you can actually bring things in. That's what we're looking at. I bring people in that work with us all the time on perseverance. The number one thing I look for is with individuals that want to partner with us, whether it's brokers or whether it's whether it's people that are going to be part of my team, is do you have, when you get hard, there's a saying I like, if everybody gets hit hard in life, it's getting up when you don't want to. Okay, did you have that in you? Because obviously what we do, there are some innate, some creative things that we create, like our programs for WOWs and things of that nature. But what I would say, though, is a lot of it is just being able to service and take care of and grind. Do you have that ability to grind? The work ethic part of it. With COVID, obviously, was the major change. I was the guy that had people in the offices when I was an insurance broker before becoming a wholesaler, and everybody was 9 to 6, and I had to adapt and realize that a lot of the reps I have are never going to be in an office. But they're incredible at what they do, and they work. And I have reps that will, that are, that partner with us, that are independent contractors that will send. I see emails come in at 4 or 5 in the morning, but by 4 or 5 in the afternoon, you can't find them, kind of a thing. And I have some people that go until midnight at night working on things. You just have to realize the change in the grind is just different. Yeah. And adaptability is a key thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. I read an article many, many years ago that talked about, by 2030, and even really before then, I may be getting some of the dates wrong, but the through line of the article was that colleges really don't know what to do because they're educating people in that they're going to come out of college and the world's going to be so different. And this was before AI and so what they were really talking about, what the article referenced was that they're teaching adaptability. One of the key things is to teach adaptability. I couldn't agree with you more. Let me ask you
adaptability is really the key. Yeah. Everything I do, and so I have a lot of people now that we're at the point now where we've launched and we have different products that are going, our WOWs program included. Everyone just assumes, wow, it's like it fell in my lap. Yeah. The adaptability of what we did and how we had to make modifications and change, and in really doing a lot of it on a constant movement, because I'm dealing with reinsurance companies in London and Bermuda and different parts of the world, to insurance carriers, to brokers, to real estate professionals and associations. It's a constant movement, and adaptability is a key element of what we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a quick question for you about some of the stuff you were talking about, kind of forging ahead in with new ways of looking at things in your business. I would imagine that you also get pushback or some level of hate, or I don't mean to be so extreme, but and so how do you push through that? Not only from a business standpoint, but from just like taking it personally, emotional standpoint.
Well, it's actually the personal standpoint is one of the hardest things I had to learn. Yeah, because there's, again, you were talking about books and sayings. Sometimes being the greatest player on the field doesn't mean you win. Yeah. Okay. And so what happens is, we know we've got the product and we have the ability to re-engineer. We know this. Imitation is the biggest form of flattery. We see companies that we're wholesaling through copying some of the things we're doing right now, and it's a great thing to have happen, because when we affect change, we're going to affect. If we're completely successful with this program, if we affect over 1% of the market, we've done an incredible job. And for the industry, well, what about the 99% of the market that's not being? So you have to realize that. But pushback is basically what I've dealt with for really 25 plus years. Yeah. As an insurance broker, and now 2+ years as a wholesaler and building programs. we were told that it was what we wanted to build was impossible.
Yeah.
And that the very first impossible was that when we would build our portfolios and spread risk, we were told that the numbers were going to show that we're wrong. So I work with CoreLogic, that now changed their name. I always make the mistake. I think it's Coladity. I can never say their name right. Anyway, CoreLogic is one of the largest analytics company in the world when it comes to numbers. Okay, I spoke at their conference. I work with Milliman. Milliman was actuarial and built actuarial and feasibility studies. So the very first pushback with WOWs was we were told what my concept was going to show was going to, when they ran the numbers, it was going to be negative to the industry when it came to costs and rates. And it was the exact opposite. It was the exact opposite. Then I was told that no insurance broker would sign on with us. I was told it's impossible to have insurance brokers. They're set in their ways. But we have 3,000 insurance brokers now and growing daily. Then we were told no London brokerage or London syndicate for the reinsurance would ever want to be a part of what we're doing. Now we have quota share, and now we have our fronting care. So I almost think I'm more comfortable these days when people tell us you can't do this. I'd almost be scared if someone told me, sounds great, let's do this. I would almost, it make me a little nervous.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, Nelson Mandela said it always seems impossible until it's done. I want to talk about the game of no's. I think business, sales, anything that you do, growing a business, scaling it, et cetera, it really is a game of no's. How many no's to one yes? In many cases, it can be 99 no's to 100. What do you think? If you were to kind of like gut what your no to yes ratio has been?
Oh goodness, I would make a comment. In some parts of it, it's been more than 100 no's to a yes. In some, I always talk about a story. I have a great London broker, because when you work with the London syndicates for like Lloyd's of London or different places, you have to have a London broker that represents you. And one of the greatest things I kind of smile is the first time I went to London, my London broker warned me about our WOWs program and said, you're going to meet with a lot of the big reinsurers and they're all going to say no. And if we're really lucky, we'll get a maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's like, to me personally, that's challenge accepted. And so what was great about it was I met with somewhere between 13 to 15 different reinsurers and had not one no, had about half of them as maybes and several of them say yes.
Yeah.
And it shocked them. It's really what you have to realize is, and this is for everyone out there listening, is if you really have the passion for something and you can affect change and your business can affect change, then a no is not something that should stop you.
Yeah. I agree.
I think there's been a lot, we see this time after time in different businesses, where people fail in business because they weren't able to withstand the no's. And then what happens? Someone else takes the same product or same concept and they take it further along because they can accept the no's and push through, as you mentioned. Amen. And now that becomes successful.
Yeah. Colonel Sanders, I remember reading, got about 1,009 rejections before, KFC really took foot. You talk about passion, and I think also I'll layer in another word, belief. If you have a strong belief, it can keep on driving you to great things. This has been a fun talk. Let's do a quick speed round. Tell me a book that's had a big impact on you.
One of the books that had it, actually what I love is, I'm a big disciple of, is Killing Patton, the tank commander of George Patton. Basically reading his memoirs, but then reading that book was a very interesting book, meaning it just tells you, it kind of works with you about mindset and how I think.
Oh, I love that. That's interesting. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received, Robert?
Probably the one that I mentioned on this, that in life, life can be tough. It can be cruel. It's not how hard you get hit. It's getting up off the ground when you don't want to. That's the truth sign.
Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do who's on their 900th no, but has strong belief should
can still continue to push on, because if you truly have that passion, make it 10,000 no's.
Yeah.
If you're at only 900, you got 9,100 to go.
Yeah. I remember I was in commercial real estate, and one of a newer broker closed everything that he listed. And so the guy that was managing the office called the CEO and was like, really excited about this guy. And the CEO said, he's not working hard enough because he hasn't lost anything yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't got enough, right? Yeah. And it wasn't a knock against the manager or the guy. The guy was both really talented, but it just was, you're going to get knocked down. It's part of the game.
You got it. And like I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about this, I'd almost be concerned now if someone just simply said yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's scarier.
Yeah.
The no's make you better.
Yeah.
That's what everyone fails. And so to answer that, really to re-answer that question, is 99 no's. The no's really make you better.
They do.
It refines you. If you can get past really the emotion or the ego portion of the no, is you can recap why it was a no.
Yeah. Amen. Robert, we'll have to have you on again. Tell everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and where they can connect with you.
Absolutely. First of all, my name is Robert Feldman. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WOWS Insurance. WOWS insurance.com is the place to find me. My personal email is robert@wowsinsurance.com. The funny part is everyone always forgets the S. So that's where I usually get pushed back. But so everyone, don't forget the S.
Don't forget the S. Robert, this was great.
Thank you.
You gave a lot to the listeners. You gave a lot to me. I always enjoy talking to people on this podcast. I learn a ton. I'm going to extract a couple things, which is make the game a game of no's and go in and understand what that metric is. Persevere, grind, and just whatever you're doing, make sure you have a very strong passion as well as a belief. You can reach Robert at where he shared. Don't forget the S. You can reach me at jondwoskin.com if you want to chat about any coaching. Think community. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Really.
Thank you. Thank you, John. And welcome to come back anytime. I'd love to be back.
We love it. All right. Thanks, everybody.